Today we're going to cover common gait deviations. This is not an all-inclusive list. This is just some of the common ones. This video is not diagnostics. This is not for you to be Dr. Google right now. I'm just sharing this information with you with educational purposes only. If you suspect something's very wrong, get a proper gait analysis from a professional. All right, let's get into it. Gait issues are deviations from the normal walking gait pattern that you learned about in my previous video. They can result from injuries, underlying medical conditions, habitual poor posture, muscle weakness, joint problems, neurological disorders, or even just poorly fitted shoes. Recognizing and addressing these issues can potentially reduce the risk of injury and reduce further complications. Without further ado, here are 11 gait deviations. Number 1, Antalgic gait, aka limping. An individual with this gait pattern will spend less time on one foot because of a pain on that side. It's a body's natural way to reduce weight bearing on the painful side. And the pain can be anywhere on that side. It could be in the hip, it could be in the knee, it could be in the foot. It's going to give us a similar pattern. If you go back and compare to the normal gait pattern from the previous video, you'll notice that the stance phase of the side that is hurting is drastically less than that 60% number. Instead, the painful side spends most of its time in the swing phase. Next up is the Trendelenburg gait. This is recognized by a dropping of the hip on the side being lifted. This gait is often caused by weakness or injury to the hip abductor muscles, especially the gluteus medius. However, the side dropping is not the injured side. It's actually the opposite. The gluteus medius muscle is responsible for holding the pelvis neutral, even when we're lifting a leg in the swing phase. If the opposite side is weak, when we're lifting our leg in swing phase, it can't keep it stable. So the side swinging is going to drop, almost popping out the hip on the other side because the gluteus medius can't keep it stable. Very important to note that Trendelenburg gait is just referring to one side of the body having this issue, not both. Both is the next one. Myopathic gait, aka waddling. The waddling gait occurs because of an entire weakness in the hip girdle, leading to a drop in the pelvis on the contralateral side while walking. This gait pattern is commonly seen in muscular dystrophies, and it's referring to hip weakness on both sides. For both Trendelenburg and waddling or myopathic gait, it's crucial to ensure that you're training your hip abductors. I do offer pre-made programs that can help stabilize the hip and pelvis complex, and I do offer one-on-one coaching as well, so check that out if you're interested. All right, next up is steppage gait, also called the equine gait. And I'm going to discuss steppage gait and foot slap together because they both have to do with a weakness in what's called the anterior tibialis and an issue with hip extension. The steppage gait has a lot of names. It's also referred to as foot drop because the foot almost drags. However, because their foot is dragging and the toes can't actually dorsiflex properly as they would need to when they're in swing phase, the person lifts up their knee higher than normal. This is to help prevent tripping. As stated, this step pattern often results from a weakness in that anterior tibialis muscle, or rather the anterior compartment of the shin. It can also be due to peripheral nerve damage. Next up is shuffling gait, also referred to as festinating gait. This often presents as a reduced lift for the actual foot during swing phase and an increased cadence or step cadence. So faster steps and they're closer to the ground, resulting in shuffling. This step pattern is often seen in individuals with Parkinson's. Please know that even though this shuffling gait pattern is often seen in Parkinson's patients, that this is not always the underlying cause of shuffling. Next up is the ataxic gait. This gait is literally defined by having no pattern. It's unsteady, uncoordinated, unpredictable, often with a wide base of support and feet thrown out, but not always. It can be due to cerebellar disturbances, often seen in conditions such as multiple sclerosis or after a stroke. For this particular gait pattern, professionals are available to help with rehabilitation and recovery in these instances. Next up is the scissor step pattern. For this one, legs cross in front of each other like scissors. It's often seen in childhood conditions such as cerebral palsy and is due to spasticity of the leg muscles. If the adductors can properly be released, or the muscles on the inner thighs, oftentimes this condition can be helped. Next up is posterior lurch gait, also known as the gluteus maximus gait. This results in a trunk leaning backwards during the initial phase of contact from the foot to compensate for a weak gluteus medius. This results in back hyperextension. Next up is a circumduction of the hip. During the swing phase of walking, this gait pattern presents with the leg swinging in an outward motion, almost in a semicircle. It's often due to issues with weak hip flexors, issues with the opposite hip, issues flexing the knee or bending the knee, or even a bit of a leg length discrepancy. For this particular gait pattern, sometimes the weak hip flexors can be due to nerve compression or an upper motor neuron lesion. All right, last two. First one is pigeon-toed or in-toed walking pattern. This occurs when the toes are turned inward while walking. It's common in children and usually corrects itself with age. However, in some cases, it may require medical intervention. Next up is duck-footed. This is the opposite of pigeon-toed. Instead of going in, the toes are now out. Like in-toeing or pigeon-toed, out-toeing or duck-foot is also common in children, but can persist into adulthood. Now that you know some of these gait patterns, I have an important note for you. Some walking patterns can be mistakenly attributed to muscular or neurological reasons, but they can also be deeply rooted in your bone structure. One such example is the in-toeing or out-toeing. Sometimes these two problems don't necessarily need to be corrected in everyone. These particular positions of the feet during walking and functional movement patterns can often actually be attributed to the configuration of our joints, how our femur sits in our hip socket. Just as one example. It's essential to recognize that unless these gait patterns are causing some pain, they may not actually require intervention. However, in cases where bone structure may be the cause of gait deviations that come with pain, surgical interventions may be needed. However, for many of us, our walking pattern is just a part of who we are, as long as they don't hinder our well-being. All right, so now you think you might have a gait issue. Are you gonna just tell yourself, I have that one? No, don't be Dr. Google. Severe gait disorders must be diagnosed by a professional, such as a physical therapist or a podiatrist. However, if you do not feel that you have any severe condition, some personal trainers do offer gait analysis, only in the context of walking, jogging, and running for the improvement of functional tasks, balance improvement, and improved performance. If you've got pain, you need to start with a physical therapist or a podiatrist. Some personal trainers, such as myself, do end up working alongside the physical therapist, meaning when you transition out of physical therapy, the physical therapist is sharing with a trainer such as myself what you have been doing and what your trajectory is. And then as a trainer, if training is okayed by your PT, your physical therapist, then I can not take over, but work alongside them until you're free to fly the nest. So I hope that clarifies things, just to make sure you understand. Pain, physical therapists. Physical therapists then give the personal trainer the ticket to say, hey, they're cleared, and we can help the physical therapist help you. If you suspect any gait abnormalities, it is crucial to get an assessment. Depending on who you end up seeing for a gait analysis, an assessment can provide you with understanding your gait pattern, possible custom orthotics, even though in many cases we still want to be training your intrinsic foot muscles and not just relying on orthotics alone. It can also provide you with an exercise routine to follow. And last but not least, mobility aids, if it ends up being a recommendation by your physical therapist or your podiatrist. These are canes or walkers, just as an example. Bottom line is, awareness and early interventions are key to preventing possible complications that may arise from gait deviations. Whether it's through exercise, footwear adjustments, or therapeutic measures, addressing gait issues can significantly enhance your mobility, and in doing so, your quality of life. So if you're interested and you already know, I don't have any pain, but I don't know if I am doing things correctly, I do offer gait analysis. I do offer functional training programs as well. Check out the links in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, share with all those who you feel will benefit from this information. Thank you so much for doing that. And always remember, your health is an investment, not an expense.